First, fast, accurate with Todd Connor and Dane Murray. You're watching WSBT 22 News on Fox at 10 p.m.
Families in a local subdivision can barely believe their eyes. New at 10, they discovered they have a new neighbor, an alligator in their pond.
Yeah, WSBT 22's Heather Black is here. And Heather, Indiana is not known for alligators in the wild.
Dane, with our winters, alligators would not survive in our region. When the family called authorities, they didn't believe them either.
But sure enough, I set my camera up, and within 10 minutes, the alligator neighbors nicknamed Allie showed up. This used to be a subdivision pond where people fished and had fun, but now they're here just to see the gator.
Last night, I got a call from my daughter and my son-in-law who live in this house here in Plymouth, and she said, "Dad, there's an alligator in the pond behind our house." I didn't believe it. She sent a grainy little video of it. Yeah, sure enough, it was definitely a swimming reptile about 3 feet long.
Team boys saw the alligator a few days ago when they were fishing. They spotted the alligator when it tried to eat their fishing bait.
And I thought, no, this is not possible. They couldn't survive through the winter. Probably somebody has abandoned it as a pet that got too big. And
Dr. Betsy Culp with Seven Oaks Veterinary Clinic says the alligator was probably released by its former owner. She says owning alligators as pets is not a good idea.
Number one, we don't have most likely proper nutrition for them. They actually do have specific nutritional requirements. Number two, they are unpredictable animals. They are wild animals, and overall, once they get bigger, they become more challenging to handle. They can become very dangerous.
Culp says people should stay away from that area until the alligator is caught.
Don't try and get close to it. Don't try and feed it, and just be very safe.
And a local couple who has a special license to care for exotic animals is trying to catch the alligator. They plan on finding it a home at a zoo. DNR says if they came to remove the alligator, then they would have to kill it. In the state of Indiana, you can own an alligator as a pet as long as it's less than 5 feet. Todd.
What a story, Heather. Thank you. The hearing for a Granger veterinarian will resume tomorrow in Indianapolis. The State Veterinary Board started the hearing for Dr. Jennifer Perusek more than a month ago. The owner of the former animal clinic of Granger is accused of abusing dozens of animals and fraud. Witnesses testified in June that she used shock collars and sedated dogs for barking too much. Defense witnesses disputed those claims. WSBT 22 will have a crew in Indianapolis for that hearing. A special prosecutor will investigate allegations against Indiana Attorney General Curtis Hill. This afternoon, Marion County Prosecutor Terry Curry announced he cannot legally lead the investigation. That's because the Attorney General's office is representing his office in 2 civil lawsuits. Curtis Hill denies the accusations against him and asked for the Marion County Prosecutor to investigate. Curry knew immediately when he heard reports about the accusations he wouldn't handle it.
I conferred with others in our office who agreed. I conferred with the Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council, who agreed that it would be inappropriate for us to serve in that capacity. And most importantly, the Marion County Criminal Court agreed today by entering an order that it would appoint a special prosecutor.
A Marion County judge will appoint the special prosecutor. That person could be a retired prosecutor, a current one, or deputy prosecutor in the state. A decision is expected soon.
Judge Brett Kavanaugh made his first trip to Capitol Hill today as a Supreme Court nominee. Ray Bogan reports Republicans and Democrats are already drawing lines in the sand ahead of what's expected to be a contentious confirmation process.
Judge Kavanaugh is a man of impeccable credentials and character.
The bottom line here is that one individual on this court makes a difference.
The battle over the next Supreme Court nominee is already underway in Washington. President Trump's pick for the bench, Brett Kavanaugh, was personally escorted to Capitol Hill today by Vice President Mike Pence. Pence used the day to rally support for Kavanaugh in a closely divided Senate.
Judge Brett Kavanaugh is quite simply the most qualified and the most deserving nominee to the Supreme Court.
But Democrats are already putting up a fight, saying Kavanaugh poses a threat to women's rights, LGBT rights, and voting rights.
Anyone who gets the Good Housekeeping seal of approval from Leonard Leo and the Federalist Society and from the Heritage Foundation is not moderate, is not mainstream.
Many are promising they will vote no on Kavanaugh's nomination. while the White House is trying to paint the showdown on Capitol Hill as an unfair game of politics.
If it's based on pure politics, then some will do what they usually do, hold up their stop sign, scream, resist, obstruct, stop, fight to the death to stop him.
Now the focus is on senators from blue states who could be crucial in the confirmation of Judge Kavanaugh. Meantime, Republicans have vowed to get Kavanaugh confirmed by September or October. In Washington, Ray Bogan, WSBT 22 News.
You can hear more about the Supreme Court and Judge Kavanaugh in an online town hall meeting tomorrow night. It's called Your Voice, Your Future, State of America. Watch it live on WSBT.com starting at 7 o'clock.
South Bend fire investigators are stressing the importance of smoke detectors after a deadly fire overnight. It happened around 1:30 this morning on Bonfield Place, just north of Western Avenue. Flames and smoke were coming from the kitchen and living room areas when crews arrived. 2 people were able to safely crawl out of a small basement window. 2 firefighters received minor injuries trying to rescue a 3rd person, 23-year-old Shockey Henderson. He was pronounced dead at the hospital.
We always recommend that every home have multiple working smoke alarms in the house. Additionally, it's really important for families to make sure that they have an egress plan.
Firefighters plan to canvass the neighborhood to make sure people have smoke detectors. The Red Cross will help them provide and install the alarms for free.
A memorial badge missing from the grave of Goshen's police chief has been found. A commemorative badge was placed on Wade Branson's grave last week, but it disappeared days later. A family friend who went to pay his respects found it near the cemetery and returned it to Branson's family.
I don't know what else to say except it's a terrible thing that someone actually had their fortitude to do something so negative. And hopefully whoever did it will have learned a lesson over this incident.
Several community members had offered to donate to help replace the badge if it wasn't found. New at 10, the St. Joseph County Council has approved spending more than $43,000 on cars for the county coroners. Coroner Mike McGann says it is no longer reasonable for the staff to log thousands of miles every year in their personal vehicles to respond to death scenes. McGann pointed out that he's made several changes to save the department money. The county will lease 4 SUVs for the coroners to use on the job. The County Council also postponing a decision tonight on the future of the leaf pickup program. According to our reporting partners at the South Bend Tribune, leaf pickup will go belly up if the money is not approved by the council. The program serves the unincorporated parts of the county. The Board of Commissioners negotiated 2 contract options for the 2018-2019 season. It's up to the council to decide which contract will be chosen. The council plans to revisit the issue next month.
It's been legal in Michigan for 10 years, but medical marijuana dispensaries are still sprouting up around the state and soon may come to Southwest Michigan. WSBT 22's DJ Manu just got back from the Green Door in Bangor, which opened just 7 months ago. DJ.
Todd, the owner's daughter was born with epilepsy, and they turned to medical marijuana to help stop her seizures. Seeing how much it helped her, he now wants to open up dispensaries throughout Michigan to help others. A busy day at the Green Door, partially because it's 7/10, the holiday similar to 420, but for marijuana-based oils and waxes. Owner Mark Smith says more than 100 people come to his counters daily.
If you put a pin in Bangor and did a circle, it's about 110 miles.
He has 2,700 registered patients, many driving from hours away. With few medical marijuana dispensaries open, Smith says his customers are happy to have a closer location to get their medicine. City Manager Regina Hoover says the business has done a lot to help the city.
They do a good business, bring in a lot of people, and I'm suspecting that those people have visited some of our other businesses here in the area. So,
whether it's for the edibles, oils, waxes, or the buds themselves, Smith says he sees people with all kinds of medical issues coming in.
We have 32 cancer patients right now. We have 18 Parkinson's, about 13 seizure patients. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 veterans that come in with issues.
One woman says the past 7 months has done more for her husband than the past 10 years of chemo.
It made all the difference because he's still surviving. So surviving is the key. And I believe that it has a lot to offer for a lot of different cases of medical treatment.
A second store is set to open in Baldwin, Michigan, and Smith has been in talks with 4 additional cities, including some in our area, like Benton Harbor.
I feel like we need to have about 8 total stores across Michigan for our plant to run at full capacity.
Smith says a dispensary may not be right for every city, but believes those that opt in will see major benefits for the city and its residents. Hoover says the Green Door has been a great addition to their downtown area, and cities should do their homework if they are interested.
DJ, thank you. Interesting. All right, if tonight's initial planning session is any indication, it could be a huge hit.
We'll take you there as parents and their kids get a chance to weigh in on a proposed children's museum in South Bend.
But first, saving lives with much needed milk, how mothers in our area can benefit.
Live look in Warsaw from the Boathouse Restaurant in Winona Lake. This is the Kosciuszko County Community Fair. It's going strong. A lot of people out and about enjoying themselves. If you're interested in meeting us, we'll be out there doing Weather Live Thursday, 4, 5, and 6. Come and say hello. We'll be all around the fair there in Warsaw. 87 and 70, the numbers today. Relative to average, a little warmer than where we typically are in mid-July. We'll take a look at the rest of the forecast coming up in about 10 minutes.
First to cover breaking news with Todd Gunner and Dane Murray. Your accurate first alert weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Matt Rudkin. And sports with Pete Byrne. You're watching WSBT 22 News on Fox at 10 p.m.
For some, a mother's milk is a gift that saves lives. In tonight's Eye on Health report, that gift is up and rolling in Goshen in the form of human donor milk from the Indiana Milk Bank.
Access to the milk bank started in February, and moms have been taking advantage of it ever since. The milk is pasteurized by prescription or physician order to hospitals and outpatients throughout the United States. It's been common practice for premature and ill babies in neonatal intensive care units for years. Now it's giving many parents and babies success, opening up a multitude of uses when moms want to exclusively breastfeed, but more milk is needed.
Occasionally we do run into medical situations where, maybe the baby's blood sugar is low, the baby's jaundice level is a little higher, and those are both reasons maybe they'd need a little extra milk.
The milk bank follows strict screening processing and dispensing guidelines. Donors go through blood testing. The milk is pasteurized to kill any bacteria or viruses. And even though the milk bank is in Indianapolis, there's a milk depot in Goshen at the birth center that collects donor milk. So you can receive milk and donate locally. You can go to themilkbank.org for more information.
Indiana adoptees will now have an easier time finding their birth parents. Until recently, they were only allowed to request non-identifying information like age ranges and allergies. Now, adoptees can request their original birth certificates. Those documents typically come with the name of at least the birth mother. Advocates who push for the law change say finding birth parents is an important part of adoptees learning their own histories.
You meet thousands of people in your lifetime, and you meet one person that just makes your life so different and makes your life complete. But then I have one person that I've never met that gave me my life.
Adoptees can file for their birth certificates through the Indiana State Department of Health. We have a link to that paperwork on our WSBT 22 News app.
All right, if you've been outside lately, you probably feel the drier air coming in. That'll stick around for a while, but we have some rain to chat about in that 7-day forecast. I'll show it to you next.
Now, your accurate first alert weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Matt Rudkin.
All right, some good days ahead.
Yeah, several good days ahead. We could use a little bit of rain. Some's in the forecast, but until then, I suppose soak this up. This is from Dave, our good friend from Niles. You look in the distance there, see the taller clouds. Those are thunderstorm clouds that produce some rain, basically our far southern counties, down by Rochester, Winnemac, and Point South. A couple downpours. Everybody else saw nothing. This is the theme, right? Irrigation equipment. If you farm, you're spending a lot of money on water and electricity for the pumps here, and you're going to want it for the next couple of days before Mother Nature provides us with some water later on. Live look in Elkhart on top of the Elkhart Housing Authority from IT3. Beautiful picture there downtown. All is quiet. You see the flags blowing. It's a north breeze, allowing temperatures in the cooler air to come in. Here's St. Joe. Look closely. Little bit of light left in the sky. Now that we are getting into July, we lose about 60 seconds of daylight a day. Not too much. August is more like 90 seconds to 2 minutes a day. That starts adding up pretty quick. Right now, Probably can't tell too much of a difference from last month. 73 in St. Joe, dew point's 58, so that's the drier air starting to come in here. Speaking of warm air, so far this year we've had 11 days at or above 90 degrees. We typically average around 10, give or take a few here and there. These are, you add up all the years since the late 1800s, you get about 10 days or so of 90s. Obviously, we've had many more than that, a month and a half plus the record, and we've also had as little as 1 day of 90 or better. So we're already at or above just a little bit what we typically see in a summer season or a year. So we'll have to see how high this goes over the next couple of weeks or even months for that matter. It still looks like the second half of summer will not be quite as brutal as the first half with some cooler temperatures. We're all quiet here. Cold front's now basically south of Terre Haute, pushing in towards Louisville and Evansville. You can see the clouds and rain associated with it. He sparked a few thunderstorms, again, around State Road 14, so Rochester, Winamac, Monon, Logansport, and Point Southward saw some of that. That's way downstate now, so not our problem. Now we get to enjoy the cooler temperatures and the drier air. 60s and 70s right now. Dew points, I'll show them to you in a second. There's that north breeze. Dew points on a wide view here. Look at the nice dry air. That's 50s. Feels pretty good. If you haven't stepped outside yet, do so. Our southern counties, it'll dry out for you coming up. Muggy meters nice and low tomorrow, refreshing, pleasant, but it does start to go back up as we head towards late week, and that will eventually set the stage for some showers, maybe a rumble of thunder. These are forecast highs tomorrow, middle 80s. Same deal on Thursday, and again, the humidity will be pretty low as well. You're noticing the heat starting to build out west, though. Notice the 90s in parts of Missouri. That heat starts to push eastward by late week. This is Friday, upper 80s, low 90s, a good bet. Even middle 90s once you get south of US 24. So for tonight, some natural air conditioning, about 60 or so, certainly some upper 50s. Not out of the question. Mostly clear skies. A whole lot of sunshine tomorrow. Very dry air, so it'll feel really good. Temperatures in the middle 80s. If you're heading to the LaPorte County Fair or Kosciuszko County Fair tomorrow, lower to middle 80s. A lot of sunshine, both areas with relatively low humidity. Same deal for Thursday. Again, warming up on Friday with some extra humidity. Shower chances begin Saturday. It's still really low. I did bump up Sunday and Monday. It's associated with the cold front. And that should do two things. Obviously, give us some decent chances for rain. And behind it, set the stage for cooler temperatures. As a matter of fact, once this cold front goes through, the overall pattern shifts a little bit. That would typically give us seasonable temperatures, if not cooler than average, for a prolonged period of time. So certainly I don't think we're done with the 90s this year, but the stretches of days and days of it may be behind us. I think we'll see a couple more. But I think the 80s will be the new norm for a while, maybe even some days in the 70s, which would be some nice relief and you save some money on the air conditioning because, boy, it was expensive. And now we're paying for water, for the grass and the gardens and the fields and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Better than shoveling.
Yes,
It's always better, except for Matt. He loves winter.
Yes.
True.
Whatever's less expensive is I'll go for.
Thank you, Matt. All right, speaking of money, stocks recovered from a midday slump to close higher for the fourth straight day. The Dow jumped 143 points to 24,919. The Nasdaq gained 3 points, closing at 77.59.
You're watching WSBT 22 News on Fox.
The campaign season is heating up, and political newcomers are affecting the direction of the Democratic Party.
WSBT 22 national correspondent Michelle Macaluso reports one prominent candidate calls herself a Democratic socialist.
And I respect the outcome of this election.
The stunning upset of one of the top Democrats in the House, New York Congressman Joe Crowley, sent shockwaves through the Democratic Party. The winner, shaking up the party, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the self-proclaimed Democratic socialist.
Now, Democratic socialists are different than Democrats in that they support more government services than the current Democratic Party does. But they're on the left, and they're going to try to pull them more left.
Co-chair of the party's Progressive Caucus, Congressman Raul Grijalva, is not focused on what she calls herself.
What's important and what people responded to was not the socialist part and not the fact that that's what she called herself. I think what they responded to was the things she stood for and what she advocated all through that campaign.
And endorsing the win, the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Tom Perez, called the 28-year-old the future of the Democratic Party. Meanwhile, the National Republican Congressional Committee, who is tasked with keeping the GOP majority in the House, says the Democrat agenda is becoming so radical that such candidates will help the GOP win elections.
It seems to me the Democrats are maybe searching just a little bit for what their identity is.
Some Democrats eyeing the 2020 presidential race are already courting the left, calling for Medicare for all and abolishing ICE. But political analyst Michelle Swears warns there's a trade-off.
What they're trying to do is find the balance between how do you excite enough of your voters with new ideas and new energy, and how do you not scare off the independents and the swing voters that you're going to need to also support you.
And with the 2020 field wide open, prospective Democratic candidates are trying to figure out what may attract voters. In Washington, Michelle Macaluso, WSBT 22 News.
From the Terrorism Alert Desk in Washington, I'm Lindsay Mastis. The Trump administration's plan to bring U.S. troops home from Syria is complicated by renewed attacks from ISIS. The Wall Street Journal reporting that the remaining ISIS fighters are using weapons and ammunition stashed in the desert to attack in both Syria and Iraq. Pakistan's National Counterterrorism Authority identified 6 politicians that could be targeted by terrorists in the lead-up to this month's election. Pakistan media reports that the country's Interior Ministry has been ordered to provide foolproof security to those politicians. And the University of Arkansas now studying terrorism patterns in the United States. They're using a federal grant to examine 575 terror-related events, as well as planned events that were never carried out. They hope that the data will one day predict some attacks. From the Terrorism Alert Desk in Washington, I'm Lindsay Mastis.
First, fast, accurate, live. This is WSBT 22 News on Fox.
From dinosaurs to giant bubbles, there are a lot of ideas for South Bend's newest children's museum.
Yeah, the first public input meeting was tonight. WSBT 22's Cassidy Williams is at the live desk, and Cassidy, it was a packed house.
They actually had to create an overflow room to make space for all the people. And while the museum's opening is probably a couple years away, the excitement is already building.
We want you to unleash your inner child.
You should have an indoor tree that you can climb in.
Oh, I'm drawing a house last night.
Okay.
Dentistry, I guess.
There's nothing like a child's imagination. Children's museums can bring them to life.
That can be an extra source of income too.
These are the first efforts to create a STEAM-based museum in South Bend.
This is like a giant bubble where it's like surrounding you and you're basically in it, and then it pops.
I want it to be messy, and I want like a little bit of like reptile, like frogs and some snakes, and like tanks, and like a disco room.
Usually they're like far away and we have to drive, and that's boring.
That's why a group of moms came up with this idea.
Feels like, yes, this is wanted, it's needed, and we were heading in the right direction even with our kind of vision for it as well. So we are beyond enthused right now.
Emily Utegard started this as a way to honor her 5-year-old son, Finn, who died suddenly earlier this year. He loved children's museums. Today's excitement is pushing her forward.
This is obviously the best I've felt in months, and I know, it's this elated feeling isn't going to last. It's my son's birthday this Friday, and it's been a hard week in a lot of ways. So this is something I really needed this week, to be honest.
The group is working on a 3-year timeline. The next steps are to create a board and then start fundraising. But this group is not fundraising just yet. Any groups asking for money are not affiliated with the moms. At the live desk, Cassidy Williams, WSBT 22 News.
Dozens of immigrant children under the age of 5 were set to be reunited with their families today after being separated under the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy. But Doug McElway reports nearly half of those children are still in detention centers tonight.
I think the government was not trying before the ruling necessarily to reunite. They had a practice of separating the kids, and there was no urgency in reunification.
The Trump administration missing a court-imposed deadline to reunite immigrant children under the age of 5 with their parents. A U.S. judge ruling at the end of June that the children were to be reunited by Tuesday after being separated under the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy. The president responding to that missed deadline.
Tell people not to come to our country illegally.
That's the solution. Don't come to our country illegally. Come like other people do. Come legally.
A government lawyer says that at least 54 children would be reunited with their families by today. That number only about half of the nearly 100 covered under the court order. But an attorney for the ACLU says that number may not be completely accurate.
We are hearing from people around the country that they are representing parents who have children under 5 who did not appear on that list.
Some children who remain separated from their parents include those whose parents have already been released into the U.S., have been deported, or are behind bars facing criminal charges. Once parents and children are reunited at ICE facilities, they will be released, awaiting further proceedings in their individual cases. Under the same court order, immigrant children of all ages must be reunited with their parents by July 26. In Washington, Doug McKelway, WSBT 22 News.
Work on a nearly $1 billion natural gas plant in Niles will have to wait. Officials at Indec Energy Services say they are working on financing for the plant, and they are optimistic about lining up investors. The company initially planned to break ground in 2017, but now that's not expected until next year. Michigan issued an air permit for the plant last year. Indec Energy expects the plant to create about 20 permanent jobs when it's running. You can bet on a new addition to Four Winds South Bend Casino coming soon. The casino is adding a poker room. The room, located in the northwest corner of the casino, will have 10 tables with live dealers. They can fit 9 people per table. Poker tables with live dealers keeps the casino under the Class II gaming specification. The manager says as of right now, this room is the only change coming to Four Winds South Bend.
We're always looking. So we look for different venue hours, different menus, the latest and greatest new games that are coming. So as we put the tables back in the northwest corner, we'll rearrange the floor to open it up a little bit, and we'll still keep our guests' favorite games out there.
Construction on the poker room will start next week. It should open for gamblers at the end of the summer.
All right, a new era begins at South Bend's historic school field in just a few weeks.
Yeah, the storied stadium is getting a new playing surface. We'll take you inside for a sneak peek at the new turf later in sports.
And drier air moving in as we speak. We'll talk about the rest of the week and take a sneak peek at the weekend next.
Now, your accurate first alert weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Matt Rudkin.
So if you have Wednesday off, good for you, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a nice one out there.
Yeah, or Thursday. Really, Friday's not too bad either. Yeah. Here's a look outside.
Take off all week.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it could just rain all week. Doesn't matter if you're off, right? You could just nap if the weather's really bad. That's what I do. Even when the weather's nice, I still nap. You always got to throw one in there. Here's a live look into Wajak. Nice and quiet out there this evening. Again, St. Joe, not a whole lot to talk about either. Pretty dark. We have that focus there at the lake. The Kankakee Valley, our classic area, the low valley there, cools pretty quickly. You're in the low 60s already. 73 in Plymouth, 74 Goshen, LaGrange, Sturgis, 72 into Wajak. Winds are light, but notice that north component bringing in the cooler, drier air. Dew points around here now in the 50s. This is a nice, comfortable air mass. When you're in the 50s, you can hardly feel the humidity, and dry air cools pretty quickly at night. So we'll continue to see the temperatures fall over the next couple of hours. Wide view of temperatures, a decent amount of cooler air, especially up north. You get to see middle 60s there in the yellow. That's all heading in our direction. We're going to be seasonable here the next few days. Afternoon highs in the middle 80s, but what you'll notice tomorrow and Thursday is humidity still pretty low. Dew points in the 60s. That's not bad at all for mid-July. But by Friday and Saturday, it'll start to feel like what you would think July would feel like. Pretty muggy around here with temperatures then getting into the 80s. So for tonight, temperatures about 60 or so. Some of you, especially again, LaPorte, Knox, the typical low-lying areas, will fall into the upper 50s with northwest wind. For your day tomorrow, 84, low humidity, a whole lot of sunshine with an east wind 5 to 10 miles an hour. LaPorte, Kosciuszko County fairs are running this weekend. If you're involved with those, maybe you're with 4-H and showing the livestock, boy, this is pretty good. Low humidity, temperatures lower to middle 80s with a whole lot of sunshine. Good for the rides and all the fair food as well. Temperatures thereafter continue to be near seasonable averages. Normal highs about 83, so we're close to that. Warming up a bit late weekend into the weekend. Chance for rain Saturday night into Sunday, and especially Sunday night and into Monday. That will cool us down a little bit by early and mid next week. I'm going to be at the fair in Warsaw, in Kosciuszko County on Thursday for weather at 4, 5, and 6. So if you see us, come up and say hello, and you can always buy us elephant ears and hot dogs and ice cream.
And we have to be really nice to him, so he'll bring us something
bring it
back.
Yeah.
That's what Jennifer
We
tried
love
to do
food.
earlier, so we'll see. That's an hour drive. I don't know how
Tried
much
to
is
do.
going to be left, so.
He's going to be picking it as he's driving back.
You'll eat so much there you won't want any on the ride back.
Is that a test?
Hopefully it works.
Aren't you on a diet?
Yeah, yeah, I told the boss that too, and he just shrugged his shoulders, so.
Yeah.
I'll see you there Thursday.
Thanks, Matt. The South Bend School Corporation is putting a state-of-the-art playing surface in at School Field. Pete gives us our first look coming up next in sports.
This sports segment on WSBT 22 is sponsored by your Platinum Chevy dealers. Now, sports with Pete Byrne.
In less than 3 weeks, high school football practice begins in the state of Indiana, which means we're now just a little more than a month away from the start of Friday Night Football fever. And several area teams will have brand new fields to play on. 2 teams will actually reap the benefits of the renovation happening right now at School Field. We stopped by today where the field turf was being installed, and as you can see, the job is almost finished. School Field is the home for both South Bend Adams and South Bend Washington High School. New lights are being installed as well, and several extra touches, like custom interchangeable goalpost pads, are being ordered to give the stadium a home field for both teams. And South Bend Athletic Director CB Gavin, tells us that's not all.
The end zone is going to be beautiful, man. It's going to have South Bend in both end zones, bold letters with a white border. The field looks good, but wait till they get that big SB out in the center. You know, get all the lines down. It's just amazing how beautiful it is out here, and I can't wait to the first game.
Now, football field renovations are also happening at Rice Field in Elkhart, where they're replacing the old grass with field turf. That began today. And at Mishawaka, where Steel Stadium is replacing the track and adding a video board on the south end of the stadium. Football games begin 5 weeks from this Friday.
Croatia and England away to watch in Moscow ahead of tomorrow's second semifinal. This one is underway.
Football of a different variety. It will be an all-European World Cup final. Today, Belgium and France met in the first semi. It was scoreless in the 51st minute when France is awarded a corner kick and plays a perfect ball into the penalty area where Samuel Umtiti puts a head on it and slips it past the goalkeeper. That's the only goal of the match. France wins it today 1-0 and advances to its 3rd World Cup final in the last 6 tournaments. They await the winner of tomorrow's match between England and Croatia. For the first time in more than a decade, the PGA Tour is overhauling its schedule, and there will be some major changes next season on the top tour in professional golf. Most notably, the PGA Championship is moving from its traditional August date to the 3rd weekend in May, and that means that the PGA will be running championships in back-to-back weeks. Officials confirmed with me today that the KitchenAid Senior PGA Championship, which plays every other year in Benton Harbor, will stay on its traditional Memorial Day weekend for the foreseeable future. The PGA move to May is made possible by the Players' Championship moving to March, and the playoffs will now be comprised of 3 tournaments instead of 4. The reason for all of this is to get the season completed prior to the start of football season. Now the Tour Championship wraps up on August 25th rather than in late September. Mishawaka has a new girls varsity basketball coach. The school board approves Sarah Deshone tonight. Deshone was a standout at Jimtown High School before becoming a 3-time all-conference player at Ferris State. Well, Chris Bryant has been rehabbing the past 2 days in the minors. How close is the former MVP to returning to the Cubs lineup? I'll let you know what Joe Madden has to say about that next.
You're watching WSBT 22 News on Fox.
Chris Bryant's return to the Chicago Cubs seems imminent. The former MVP third baseman had an impressive rehab stint with the AA Tennessee Smokies and is now close to rejoining the team. Bryant played third base for the Smokies last night alongside 6 other players who've spent time recently with the South Bend Cubs in the past couple summers. And Bryant tore it up at the plate. He went 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a home run, which he smacked over the left field fence. Bryant did play another rehab game in Tennessee this afternoon and took 2 at-bats before he took himself out of the game. Bryant said that his primary goal of the rehab trip was just to work on his timing so he can return to the majors.
You know, I want to get my timing back. I mean, taking 2 weeks off is you know, tough. I mean, it's hard to get thrown right back into the fire like that. So I thought coming down here and taking some at-bats and really just a no-pressure environment. I mean, obviously, I'd love to help the team win, you know, but for me, I just want to get that timing back.
Joe Madden spoke to reporters prior to tonight's game in San Francisco and said there's a good chance Bryant will be in the starting lineup for the Cubs tomorrow afternoon. They don't have them tonight, though, as they look to even up their series against the Giants out on the West Coast. Jose Quintana on the mound for the Cubs tonight, and he's going to get a little hap from Ian Happ in the first inning. Brandon Belt sends a deep fly down the left field line, but Happ runs it down near the foul line. Right now, they are scoreless. This game is in the bottom of the second inning. And the White Sox are hosting the Cardinals tonight, and the Redbirds would strike first on the south side of Chicago. In the third, Marcell Ozuna slaps one into right field. Paul DeJong scores, and St. Louis has a 2-0 lead. But the White Sox answer right back in the bottom of the third. Sox start the inning with 3 straight hits. Charlie Tilson drives one past the diving first baseman. That's going to bring in a pair with the RBI single. Omar Narvaez and Tim Anderson both score, tying the game at 2. But the Cardinals have since broken it wide open. They scored 3 runs in the 6th without hitting the ball, and then they followed it up with this. Bases loaded for Dexter Fowler, and the former Cub goes deep. That's a grand slam, and right now the Cardinals are running away with this one. It is 11-2 in the bottom of the 7th inning, and Todd is doing all he can to contain his excitement right now. Your team is having a nice night.
I hate to see that. Yeah. Make up for the other nights that weren't so nice, right?
Yep, tonight's their night.
All right, Pete, thanks for the good news.
No problem.
All right,
My
Matt's
pleasure.
coming up next. Finally at 10, if you can stomach some bugs, then bon appetit. The Bao Bao Dumpling House in Portland, Maine served the state's first insect dinner tonight.
One dish combined vegetables with toasted crickets and chili vinaigrette. Another paired bacon and jasmine rice with garlicky mealworms. They would probably be a little crunchy. There was also a meal that mixed another type of worms with scallops. The restaurant's founder said he designed the one-night event to raise awareness about the need for new sources of protein as the world's population continues to grow.
In Maine?
No.
Like where you can just reach out into the open and grab a lobster?
Right. What's up with that?
I'll just have some worms.
Oh
Maybe
my
a few
gosh.
ants on top of the yogurt.
Would you try it? Would you try any of that?
If
the money was right.
If there's money involved, yeah.
I knew it.
No, I would not. Matt's like,
No, if it's like one of the charity or something like that, that would be about it. But
chili vinaigrette with it?
No,
Not even that? Okay.
Not even a
So
stiff
gross.
drink wouldn't sell me on that one to wash it down.
How about buffalo ants?
With some queso?
Yeah. Now we got them thinking.
so grossed out.
There you go. Temperatures in the 80s next few days. Great bug-eating weather there. Several days.
More local news in about 2 minutes over on WSBT 22.
See you there.